Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Correlate Marketing Investments to Sales Opportunities. I'm Haley Matissa with RapidMiner, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm joined today by Tarlok Sagu, co-founder and managing director of Datastitions. Datastitions is a best-of-breed consulting organization which focuses on strategic advisory and roadmap architecture, implementation, and post-go-live support capabilities around big data, data architecture, predictive analytics, data discovery, and visualization domains. Tarlok served as Global Vice President of Customer Success and Strategic Partnerships at RapidMiner, and in this role, he was responsible for leading consulting, education, and customer support while managing strategic partnerships with key technology companies and system integrators. Before I turn it over to Tarlok, I want to point out that we'll be having a question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. Feel free to submit your questions via the questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of today's presentation. That's enough from me. Now I'll turn it over to Tarlok.
Thank you, Haley, and thank you everybody for joining the call. So I'm going to go through a quick introduction of Datastitions before we go through the use case, and just give you some highlights in terms of what we do as a company. And then through the use case, obviously it's going to be the bulk of the presentation. Like Haley mentioned, at the end of it we will have some questions, Q&A. So let me just quickly introduce you to my company. So we're fundamentally a full-service consulting practice that focuses on data architecture, analytics and visualization, big data, but also very heavy in the predictive analytics area as well. One of the key things that we pride ourselves in is the fact that we do advisory, and we typically sit down with customers at an early stage when they're looking at their data and how to drive value from it, and talk to them about the different aspects of technology, people, and process that they need to think about in that journey. So that's fundamentally what we do, and really make sure that the key thing that we do is driving value out of the data is the key thing. So our partnerships and expertise just gives you a sense from this slide, just the different types of technologies we cover. As you can see in the predictive domain, we're really heavily partnered with RapidMiner. We see it as a very important part of the ecosystem for predictive analytics, with the both R and Python in the mix as well. And then obviously with analytics, specific, just general analytics, we've got multiple partnerships. Tableau and Qlik, obviously the big dominant players in the market. We're actually going to use Qlik Sense in today's demo as the output media for the visualizations, but obviously we do have a number of partnerships in that area. And then with big data, obviously you can see there again, we've got a number of relationships with the key vendors around the Hadoop play. In terms of our advisory services, this is kind of how we position ourselves with customers. We really look at talking to them about the journey that they're going to go through, from reporting to analytics to monitoring and prediction. And most customers we talk to are really down at the reporting and analytics phase of their journey. And when we generally get to talk to customers who are leaders in their market or their industry, they're generally doing monitoring and prediction. So they're really leading the edge in terms of being more proactive and driving value out of their data. But typically reporting, analytics, and monitoring is really only looking at historical data. And value and significant differentiation is gained when you start doing prediction, where you can actually start preempting things happening, or actually using predictive data to be able to maintain and gain opportunities that are actually in your market. So this is really the way we look at it. So we move on, and so we're now going to go into the use case and really focus on what we are going to build here, and it's just going to give you a sense of how RapidMiner works in the context of marketing, sales, and sales data. So the scenario that we're going to be talking about is really a scenario where a sales or marketing operations analyst needs to analyze the marketing campaign data against how many leads and opportunities are created from it. And really what they're trying to do is understand what's the cost of my marketing campaign, and then what was the overall ROI, or what we would say in the industry, return on investment, And what factor was that really? Was it a 2x factor or was it a 10x factor? Am I actually getting an uplift on the investments I'm making in marketing campaigns to actually having some sales dollars come on the other side? And typically that individual is having to pull this data together for a CEO or Chief Marketing Officer or the VP of Sales or the VP of Marketing. And then really the problem statement that exists around this type of use case is that the data for these 3 different areas, marketing campaign, leads, and opportunities, they typically live in different systems. So you have to think about how you actually want to pull the data out. And RapidMiner, obviously, we're going to show you how you can very quickly pull that out and actually analyze it. Just more of a pictorial view of what I talked about, but just fundamentally, you got your 3 source systems on the left-hand side. The campaign management system is typically your Marketo or Eloqua, and then your lead management system and opportunity management system are usually subsections of the Salesforce application. But obviously, there'll be, in some situations, they can be set another 2 different types of applications. And then again, we're going to pull everything into RapidMiner. RapidMiner will do a bunch of assembly of the data, prep it and model it. And then we will then actually output the data into Qlik Sense. We've written Tableau in there because if you do have a Tableau environment at your customer site right now, actually at your site, sorry, you can use Tableau as your visualization tool. And then the one in the middle is the gray visualization is really what RapidMiner offers. It's not really the best of breed, but it actually gives you some capability to do some visualization on the data you've got. Okay, so let me move over to the use case. So what I've got here is just a general set of screens that are in RapidMiner. Just to very quickly navigate everybody through what you're seeing. This screen on the left-hand top corner is actually the repository, which is where we save and store the data and the processes that we build. On the lower left-hand screen are the operators that are available in RapidMiner to do the computations that we're going to be doing. In the middle screen is what I would say is your bench work, where you're actually going to be building the workflows and the processes. And then on the right-hand side are the underlying, on the top right-hand side is really the different parameters that you have for each operator that you select from the operator list, and it gives you a variety of different configuration items. And then at the bottom left, right-hand side is the help that's available for each one of these processes that you've selected. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and, in this instance, I haven't got a live environment of Salesforce, but imagine you do. You can actually connect to Salesforce directly, but what I've done is just assume that you've exported the data into Excel. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually, first of all, going to create a repository where we can store that data. So let me go ahead and do that. So there's a little option here to create a repository. I'm going to do a new local repository. I'm going to call it campaign lead and opportunity. And then within that, I'm going to create 2 subfolders. One to store my data, and the second one to store my process. Oops, I made a mistake there. Let me just put it up. Okay, so it needs to be at the same level as data. Next thing I want to do is I actually want to import my data into the data repository. So I go ahead and select Add Data. I want to go to my computer. I'm going to go to my location, and in this instance, it's actually on my desktop. And the first one I'm going to import is my campaign data. It analyzes the Excel spreadsheet, goes through and actually says this is what's available. Everything looks correct. There should be a number of data records, yep. And then I just go ahead and hit next. checks for any format errors. There's no problems. Hit next, and then finish. And it goes ahead and imports it. And then it moves to a results screen, which provides me the actual details of the data. So let me go back to my design screen. So up here, we have results screen and design screen, and I'm going to click on design and go back and import the rest of the data. So let me go ahead and pull in my lead data. I'm going to go ahead and do add data. Again, my computer, I'm going to go to last directory, leads. And again, it shows me my leads in here. Go back, leads are in there. Let me go ahead and add in my final piece of data. Opportunities. And again, it shows me all my data there. So I now have my data in the data set, in the repository. What I want to do next is I actually want to join my campaigns and my leads together, because typically leads are generated out of campaigns, so I'm looking at this more from a business standpoint as well. So you logically have to join it through that same standpoint. So the way that you do that is you go to you can drag in campaigns into the workspace and go ahead and drag in leads. And then we use what we call a join operator. Drag that in. And then this output connects to the left-hand side of the join, and the output from the leads creates to the right-hand side. Click on the join operator, and then it gives you the parameters for this operator. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are connecting through very specific keys in the two tables. Go back to results, and I'm going to look at the campaign data. So we've got campaign ID, and in leads we got campaign ID as well. And also we do have a lead ID in here, but there's campaign ID to campaign ID. So let's go back and do that join on campaign ID. We deselect use IP attributes as a key, and because we actually want to configure this ourselves, and click on the edit list. So the left side is campaign ID, the right side is campaign ID. We apply, and we have joined that. So we now have joined these two data sets, and what I'm going to do now is just join this up to the results connection here, and then run the process, and this will actually show you a table with the joined data. So this is now the joined data. The next thing I want to do is I want to add the opportunities in here. So again, drag in the opportunities, create another join, and we're going to use the join we've already done from the campaign and the lead to join to the join to, and then we're going to join the opportunities into that join to. Again, we're going to use the correct keys. So if I go back to the results, I want to look at the raw data for leads. We have lead ID, campaign ID. And then over here we have in opportunities, we have opportunity ID, and we have lead ID. So we want to join on lead ID for both situations. Let's go back to the design and join lead ID to lead ID. Apply that, and then join this second join the results, and go ahead and run the table. Now, one thing I want to just show you here is that we have brought back on the result set for this final second join 657 records. Let's just make sure this is correct. So if we go back to the original set of raw tables, on the campaigns we had 25 records. So look at campaigns here. And then on leads, which is the raw data in leads, we had just under 20,000 records. So this tells me that there's something going wrong with my final results on what I just did from join 2. And then in opportunities, we had 822 records. So basically, this logically makes sense to us because not every lead turns into an opportunity. You'll actually have fewer opportunities than you would have leads. And so we have to make sure that we do some outer join in the logic. And an outer join, for those of you that don't know what that means, is it basically makes sure that all the records from one table that equal the other table are joined, but they're also the ones that do not equal the other table also get brought into the result set, making sure you get the full population of data. So let me go back to the design. In the join, we have a look at the join type, and currently it's set for inner, which is the wrong one, and we want to do full outer join on both sides. And then we're going to run that again. And now it should actually work. So now we have 20,164 records, and that is correct, looks correct, because when we go back to opportunity, the raw opportunity table, I did notice that we had actually had opportunities which had no leads, because you can also have opportunities that don't have leads as well. They potentially just come straight through. So that is actually the correct data. So now, going back to design, this is our join data and our full data set for the campaign, lead, and opportunity data. And this now is the basis of what we're going to use as our analysis. So what I want to do next is I want to actually output this data into either Tableau or Qlik Sense to actually start analyzing it. What I'm going to do then is actually use the operator here for one of these two technologies. So I actually have a operator here called WriteQVX, which is a file format for the Qlik technology. And I add that in as part of the output that we're going to use. And this is something that you can actually just download from the marketplace. So if you want to, you just basically click on Get More Operators, goes to the marketplace, the Tableau operator is available there, and then the QVX is there as well. And I've already installed them, but you basically can pick them up from the marketplace. Okay, so now I'm going to output the data into QVX, but it's also going to output it here as a result set. So I need to just make sure I configure this QVX write output. So up here it gives me the parameters. I just need to define where I'm going to output it to. I'm going to go to my folder RM webinar. I'm going to call it campaign, leads, and opportunities. And it's QVX format. I'm going to hit open, and then I'm going to run the process. Okay, so this is again showing me the output here in RapidMiner. But if I now go to my folder, it shows me the output here in QVX. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and open up Qlik Sense, which I had opened earlier on. And I'm going to create a new app. So I'll be very quick in this. I'm going to call this campaign, leads, and opportunities. Oops, too many P's. I'm going to create that. I'm going to open the app, and I'm going to load the data in here. And it says add data. You can go to all files. I'm going to find my folder on desktop. It's the RapidMiner website, and then it's the QVX extension I want to go for. Okay, so it's loading up the data. I'm going to hit load data and finish. And I'm going to close. So what I will do now is I will do this other option here, which is create new sheet, which is really creating a new dashboard. I now have a blank dashboard. I'm going to edit the dashboard, and now it gives me the options of actually configuring my dashboard. So what I will do is in Qlik Sense, it gives you these three tabs here. First one is the chart type, second one is the data that you've got available to you, and this last one is really more of a calculation programming tab. But let me go back to the first tab. I'm going to go ahead and create a table because I want to make sure my data is correct. I'm going to go ahead and add the campaign ID in here. And then I'm also going to add a second column around year, so campaign year. And then I'm going to add a third column around a measure, and it's going to be campaign spend, and I'm going to do sum of campaign spend. And then I just need to do one quick correction on it because it is taking a calculated value here, so I'm going to just make it distinct to give me the real value of my campaign cost. Okay, so there's your campaigns based upon the different campaign IDs, the years they were run, and then the actual campaign costs. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to do a count on my campaign IDs. I'm going to do a KPI here. I'm going to add a measure and do campaign IDs, and I'm going to do count. So we had, again, I want to do distinct. That's 25 campaigns. That's how many campaigns you ran. Again, all from that one set of table. And then I'm going to do lead count. So I'll do another KPI right next to that. We'll add the measure. We're going to do lead ID, and we're going to do a count. And there's 20,000 leads. Actually, I need to do distinct there as well. 20,000, which is correct. 19,999. So just round it up to the highest number. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to do another KPI, but I want it for opportunities now. I want to show the number of opportunities we had. So I want opportunity ID. I want to count there. So it's 822 opportunities. Oh, sorry, that needs to be distinct as well. Okay, that's okay. So there's that, and then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick KPI here for the campaign spend, but I want to do average this time. And I'm going to do the same thing with opportunity amount, and I want to do average there. So this is the average amount of money we brought in through an opportunity and the average spend we've had through the opportunity. And then the final thing I'll do is I'll just quickly create a bar chart here. We'll add the campaign ID and we'll add the opportunity amount. Okay, so that's my graph. What I can do is I can go ahead and select any one of these campaigns. So I've got campaign C20. Obviously, we had one campaign. It drove 808 leads. We had 23 opportunities out of it. It was a $30,000 cost, and we had an average of $113,000 in return. So this gives me some very good indication that we had a 3 to 4x multiplier on that. And you can do the rest with any one of these. So that hopefully explains how we would do that piece there. When we bring the data together, you can actually visualize and actually show this to a chief marketing officer or CEO or your VP of sales or marketing. Okay? All right, so let me go back to RapidMiner. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to show you how to run an algorithm now on this data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run an X-means algorithm. And for those that don't know what that is, we're basically going to run a clustering model on here where we're going to look at the data and actually try to find specific clusters of data within this to see what's actually going on within it. So I'm going to go ahead and add an X-means algorithm, and that you can just type in the search there. You would go ahead and drag that in, and then I'm going to join that up. Let me do it again because we want to have multiple joins now. There we go. So I just want to make sure, if we do multiple joins, I want to make sure it comes up with this option here where it allows me to do multiple joins, and it creates automatically this multiply option here where it allows me to split off the data into two different operators. So in the xmeans operator, we want to configure it. We want to add as a label. We want 2 clusters minimum, 60 clusters maximum. We want to measure the mixed measures. And we want to run the k-means algorithm within this. We want to do a maximum of 10 runs and a maximum of 100 steps. And then obviously we want to make sure we bring the output through to the result set. Let me go ahead and run that. And you've probably noticed here there's an error that's just come up. So there is a problem, and what we're going to do is show you how we fix that problem. So there's a problem with the data it's trying to use. So let's fix that issue. The first thing we're going to do is we want to select the attributes we want to use, because we've pulled in everything in here. Let's use an operator called select attributes. Let's remove this. Actually, just delete this join. Go ahead and select that over here. And select that over there. And let's configure the select attributes operator. We want to select a subset of the data, and we're going to define which ones we're going to select now. So we want campaign spend. That's one of the measures. Let's use lead status because it's a dimension. Let's use marketing status, which is another dimension. And that's lead marketing status. The objective, the opportunity amount, which is another measure. The parent campaign, which is another dimension. The program name, which is another dimension. And then the type, which would be the part of the campaign. Let me apply that. Let's rerun that again. Oh, sorry. One error here, I forgot. Okay. Let's run that again. Okay. So we have, sorry, one other thing that we would need to do is we need to put a filter example in here. We need to filter out any null values. Let me put that in there as well, because there are null values and it doesn't work with an xmeans. And we want no missing attributes. Okay, let's save that. Run it. Okay, and that worked. I just forgot to do one other thing. I joined the two pieces. The top piece of the xmeans actually gives you some metadata statistics, which we'll look at in a second. And the second connection here will actually give you the result set. So let me run the whole thing again. All right. So what we have here now is the actual clustering column or attribute that's now created with the data based on what we selected. It's given us, if we just look at the statistics, it's given us in the data set, this is actually just a bunch of, this is a variety of information about the data set. It's given us three clusters. And then if we just go back to the data, we can look at the cluster model. This is the type of cluster model it's run. It's got 407 items in it. Again, three clusters. And then what I want to do is I want to actually plot this out now into a scatter graph, which actually it's already done it. So we want to basically have spend, campaign spend, opportunity amount, and then we want to do it by cluster, which is actually exactly what we want it to be. And so what you see here is we got 3 clusters, and you can see there's a variety of clusters up here which are a little bit more sporadic in red. We got a variety of, we got another cluster down here in blue, and then we got another cluster up here in the green. Okay. One other thing I just want to quickly show you is coming back to the, find it. We rerun the process. Okay, in the cluster model information, you actually have a variety of other information that's available here. But if you click on the centroid table, it actually gives you some data about the clusters. And you can actually then use that to analyze some unique characteristics of that set of clusters and why they are unique and what's actually making them joined together. So in this situation, the data doesn't make a lot of sense. But what you would do is if you have a larger volume of data, you'd actually have a lot more information here that actually gives you more characteristics of the 3 clusters or how many clusters you come up with or RapidMiner recommends. Okay, so that basically is how you use the campaign lead and opportunity data, join it together, and actually run a model against it. So I think I'm done, and I'm going to go back to Q&A, and I'm going to hand back to Haley. And yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Qlik, for a great presentation today. You covered a lot of really great information, and we appreciate your time. So like Qlik said, now it's time to go ahead and get your audience questions.